The Apothecary's Daughter. Chapter 1. The Man in the Hedge. Rain had a way of making Fernley village feel smaller, as though the world ended at the sagging hedgerows and muddy lane. By late afternoon, the downpour had settled into a steady, curtain-like sheet outside the apothecary shop, blurring the crooked line of cottages opposite. Miss Mary Field shut the shop door against a gust of wet wind and set the latch with a firm hand. The bell gave one last protesting jangle. "You look drowned," her father remarked from behind the counter, where he was carefully scraping a measure of powdered rhubarb into a paper twist. Mary tugged down the hood of her cloak, water droplets spattering the floor. "Mrs. Darby says she will not last the week without more laudanum. I told her she will last the week very well with less laudanum and more patience." Mr. Josiah Field snorted. "If patience could be bottled, I would retire a rich man. Hang that cloak before you drip all over my ledgers." "Yes, sir." The shop was a familiar chaos that no outsider would guess was meticulously ordered in Mary's mind. Rows of glass jars labelled in her neat hand, bunches of drying herbs suspended from the beams, the faint sharp smells of vinegar, camphor, and rosemary twining together in the air. She moved through it with the ease of long habit, hanging her cloak, smoothing her plain gown, tying on a fresh apron. "Did you stop at the vicarage?" her father asked. "Yes, Mrs. Pritchard's time is close, but she is strong. I left more raspberry leaf and instructions." Mary reached for the mortar and pestle. "Shall I grind more feverfew?" "Do. We'll need it when the spring fevers come." Outside, thunder muttered faintly, not a sharp crack, more a distant grumble. Mary barely noticed. The work was soothing, the rhythmic scrape of pestle against stone, the rustle of paper, the careful measuring. But beneath it all, she held the constant awareness a village apothecary's daughter must carry, that illness, injury, and catastrophe respected no schedule. Some 30 minutes later, catastrophe obliged. It came as a sudden heavy crash beyond the back wall, too solid to be thunder, too near to be from the lane. Mary's head jerked up. "Papa, did you hear that?" "Likely a branch come down," Mr. Field said, though his eyes followed hers toward the back. "No, nearer." She untied her apron. "I'll look. Mary, if someone's fallen—" She was already reaching for a lantern. Her father sighed, but did not try very hard to stop her. "Take care, and shout if it's something larger than you can drag." The back door opened onto their small yard and herb garden. Rain pattered on the flagstones and flattened the thyme and marigolds. Beyond the beds, the old willow drooped over the low stone wall and the brambly hedge that marked the boundary to the rough field. Mary lifted her skirts clear of the worst puddles and crossed the garden, lanterns swinging. The light caught on something wrong in the hedge, a gap where branches were crushed inward, leaves torn and muddied. Her heart thumped. "Hello," she called. "Is anyone there?" The lantern's glow brushed over a dark shape at the base of the hedge. A man lay half on his side, half on his back, as though he had tumbled through the tangled branches. One arm was curled under him, the other pressed hard to his side. His coat, rain-soaked and spattered with mud, was undeniably fine. His hair, dark, disordered by water, clung to his forehead. His face was pale beneath smears of dirt. Mary knelt in the mud without thinking. "Sir?" His eyelids fluttered. For a moment his gaze was unfocused, then his eyes, startlingly light grey, fixed on her face. "Please," he whispered, voice roughened by pain and cold. "No, magistrate." Her brows drew together. "Magistrate? You're injured. You need help." "Not his kind," the man said. "I beg you." Mary followed the line of his arm. His hand was clamped over his left side. Beneath it, his waistcoat and shirt were dark with blood. Rainwater thinned it at the edges, turning it into pink rivulets that ran toward the roots of the hedge. A calmness she had learned at 12, helping her father with her first real case, settled over her. "Can you stand?" she asked. He made a faint sound that might have been amusement. "With assistance, perhaps." His lips twitched. "You are very calm for a young lady who's found a bleeding stranger in her hedge." "I am an apothecary's daughter," Mary said briskly. "We are rarely allowed the luxury of panic." She slid an arm under his shoulders. He was heavier than he looked. The movement jarred his wound. He gasped, grunted, jaw clenching. She braced herself and hauled. "On 3, she panted. 1, 2. He used what strength he had to push himself upright. Together, stumbling, slipping, they made their way across the garden. The lantern swung wildly, sending arcs of light over drenched lavender and bowed sage. Mary's back and arms protested. She ignored them. She kicked the rear door with her heel. "Papa!" It flew open. Mr. Field took in the scene in one look, a gentleman's torn coat, a dark stain spreading under his hand, Mary's determined expression. "By all that's holy," he muttered, "put him on the work table." They laid the man out flat. He clung to consciousness with visible effort. Under the blood and mud, his clothing was of excellent cut. A heavy ring glinted on his finger. A gentleman, then. Likely a nobleman. Mr. Field's mouth tightened. "Who are you, sir?" he demanded, already reaching for his knife to cut away the coat. The stranger licked his lips. "Everett Hale." Mary saw her father stiffen. "Hale," he repeated, "of Alderwick." A flicker of resignation crossed the man's face. "Yes, Lord Everett Hale, at your displeasure." Mary's knowledge of the great families was limited to what she gleaned from newspapers and the vicar's wife's gossip, but she recognized the name. The Marquis of Alderwick governed a vast estate 2 counties away, if she recalled correctly. "Lord Everett, is it?" Mr. Field said grimly. "We do not often have lords bleed into our cabbages." "Consider it a novel. Custom," Everett muttered. "Papa, he's losing blood," Mary said. "We can argue about titles later." That pried Mr. Field's mind from its alarmed calculations. He slit coat and shirt open, revealing a long, slanting gash beneath the ribs, nasty but thankfully not deep enough to spill intestines. Blood had clotted in places, but fresh beads oozed as the fabric pulled away. Mary's stomach twitched, her hands did not. "Clean water, spirits, needle and silk," her father said, "and more light." Mary moved quickly, fetching basin, cloths, the bottle of clear, sharp-smelling spirit, the little box of needles. Candlelight grew brighter as she lit 2 more tapers. Everett watched her through half-lidded eyes. "This will hurt," she warned as she poured spirits over the wound. He hissed as the liquid bit. "You have a gift for understatement, miss. Field, Mary Field." She dabbed away blood with steady hands. "Then I owe my life to Miss Field," he said softly. "You will owe it to my father if you stop talking long enough to let him stitch," Mary said, though her cheeks warmed. She held the wound as clean as possible while Mr. Field's needle flashed in and out, lips moving in silent count. Everett's fingers dug into the wood of the table. A muscle jumped in his jaw, but he made no sound. "Where did you get this?" Mr. Field asked, not looking up. "A duel," Everett said, "of the most ill-advised sort." Mary froze for a heartbeat. "A duel, but they are illegal." "Yes," he murmured. "So many tiresome things are." He gave them the bare bones of it as they worked, an arranged match to Lady Caroline Kellingwood, whom he did not love, a refusal, a furious father, an offended brother, a dawn meeting in a field, the sudden arrival of constables, a slash across his side as he fled. "You challenged him?" Mary asked, shocked. "He challenged me," Everett said. I accepted because otherwise I would be branded coward, seducer, and villain in every drawing room from here to London. My father would have led the chorus. And now, Mr. Field said, you are outlaw and fugitive. Now, Everett said, watching Mary's hands, I am whatever you decide to say I am, Mr. Field. If you call the magistrate, I shall be a cautionary tale by the week's end. If you send me on my way, I shall likely bleed out in a ditch. If you help me, he paused, then I become your trouble. My trouble, Mr. Field muttered, tying the last knot. Too late to avoid that now. Mary began to wind clean linen around Everett's torso. His fever-bright gaze softened. You are kind, he said to her quietly. This is not kindness, she answered. It is duty. He smiled faintly. You draw no line between the two, I suspect. His eyes slid closed at last as exhaustion claimed him. Only then did Mary allow herself a long, unsteady breath. Papa, she whispered, we are harbouring the Marquis of Alderwick's son. Yes, Mr. Field said grimly, and if the world finds out, I may yet live to see our sign taken down and our door nailed shut. Mary looked down at the sleeping man whose scandal had rolled into their small, ordered life like a boulder into a pond, sending ripples everywhere. She did not know what would come of it. She only knew that, rain or no rain, she could not have left him in the hedge. Chapter 2. A patient out of place. Everett's fever rose that first night, then broke toward morning. Mary stayed with him almost the whole time, dozing in her chair between spoonfuls of willow bark draught and sips of water, waking whenever his breathing changed. He muttered in his sleep, half-formed phrases, scraps of anger and pleading. Caroline, no. Father, I am not. Coward. Say it again. Once, quite distinctly, he said, Mary, and reached blindly toward her. Without thinking, she took his hand. His grip tightened, as though it were the only solid thing in a spinning world. You're safe, she murmured, though she knew very well he was not. When he woke properly, the light from the small high window had turned soft and grey. He blinked, as if trying to place the shelves of jars and the rough beams of the ceiling. This is not hell, he rasped. No, Mary said dryly. It is the apothecary's storeroom. We keep somewhat better records than hell, I imagine. He turned his head. Recognition flickered. Miss Field. Yes, your fever has broken. Your wound is clean. You will live if you obey instructions. And if I do not, then you will die, she said matter-of-factly, and I will be annoyed. His lips curved. You profess a very alarming calm, Miss Field. I have had it drilled into me, she replied, adjusting his bandage. Flailing about wastes time and lives. He watched her hands. I must thank you, he said quietly, for not leaving me to the crows. Thank my father, she said. He did the stitching. I rather think he did it under duress, Everett said. You dragged me in. You lied for me. You sit by my bed like a very stern angel. I'm not so arrogant as to misplace gratitude. Mary looked away, suddenly uncertain what to do with her face. No one flirted with her. Fernley's eligible young men had long since decided she was more useful at the counter than on a dance floor. Flattery will not improve your pulse, she said. Eat your broth. She fed him slowly, one careful spoonful at a time. He submitted with only a little grumbling, wincing when a deep breath tugged at the stitches. So, she said once the bowl was nearly empty, you fought a duel for the sake of a lady you did not love, at the insistence of a father who does not care for you, and now the law wishes to catch you. You are very efficient at creating difficulties. He gave a short laugh. When you summarize it so, I sound ridiculous. You are ridiculous, Mary said, but not irredeemable. How bad is it? Truly. He considered. My father is furious. He lives in perpetual fear of scandal, and I am a walking one. He has sent his steward and the law sniffing along the roads. If the constables catch me, they will haul me to London to make an example. If my father reaches me first, he will make arrangements I will not like. Arrangements? Marriage, Everett said shortly. To Caroline or another like her. Anything to bind me tighter to his plans. He has always said that my life is his to order. Mine, apparently, disagrees. Mary's fingers tightened on the spoon. And what do you want? He blinked, as though no one had asked him that before. I am not entirely sure, he admitted after a moment. I know only what I do not want. Sometimes that is a beginning, she said quietly. In the days that followed, Everett recovered strength under Mary's watchful eye. The first time he tried to stand, his face went white and sweat broke out along his hairline. Sit, she ordered, catching his arm. You will tear your stitches. I dislike inconvenience, he muttered, obeying. So does death, she said. Her father restricted him to the storeroom and the tiny yard, away from the front windows. People notice strangers, he said. People notice gentlemen especially. We will not provide them with extra fodder. Mary obeyed, though each ring of the shop bell made her chest tighten. She moved between the front and back rooms, between Mrs. Darby's demands and Everett's questions, between willow bark and whispered scandal. He was, she found, inconveniently likeable. He listened when she spoke, not merely out of politeness, but with genuine interest. He had sharp, occasionally cutting humour, but reserved it for himself as often as others. He asked about the villagers, the work, the medicines. When she explained why she persuaded Mr. Green to drink less ale with his gout powder, Everett nodded as if she were explaining estate accounts. It sounds, he said once, remarkably like what a good landlord ought to do. And do you? She asked. He smiled without amusement. My father does. I was meant to ride, gamble, and make witty remarks until he died. Then I would be expected to care deeply for the estate overnight. That seems a poor training, Mary said. On that point we are agreed. News from outside seeped in at second hand. The vicar's wife arrived for her lavender and with relish recounted everything she had heard about the duel at Hartley. Shocking, she said. Simply shocking, Miss Field. A lord, Lord Everett Hale, they say, fighting like a common ruffian. The constables nearly caught him, but he escaped. A scandal. His poor father is beside himself. I hope they catch the young man and chastise him properly. Mary wrapped the lavender slowly, fingers steady by sheer will. Perhaps, she said, there is more to the story. Families can be difficult. My dear, nothing excuses duelling, the vicar's wife declared. Blood begets blood. Mark my words, the young man's soul is in grave peril. I will mark them, Mary said politely, though she thought of Everett's hand gripping the table while her father stitched him and felt an unwelcome prick of indignation on his behalf. When the woman left, Mary pressed her palms flat on the counter and breathed hard through her nose until the urge to either laugh or cry passed. That evening, she told Everett what was being said. So I am a wicked man with a perilled soul, he said lightly. His eyes were less amused than his tone. My father will like that story. It absolves him of responsibility. You are not wicked, Mary said, more sharply than she intended. You are foolish and frightened and used to having your choices made for you. He stared at her. No one speaks to me that way, he said after a moment. You are welcome, she replied. He laughed then, a real laugh, surprised and soft. You are a remarkable woman, Miss Field. Remarkable she might be, but not foolish enough to pretend their fragile peace could last. The world, which had briefly seemed to stop at the apothecary door, soon came knocking. It did so in the form of Mr. Talbot and Mr. Briggs. Chapter 3. The Goodbye Kiss. Mary knew, the instant the shop bell rang and she heard unfamiliar male voices, that trouble had finally caught up. She straightened from the drawer of peppermint she was measuring and turned. 2 men stood just inside the door, rain-damp cloaks shedding droplets onto the floor. One was tall and broad, with a serious, careworn face. The other was thinner, sharp-featured, his eyes quick and assessing. "Good morning," she said, careful. "How may we assist you?" "We are seeking Mr. Josiah Field," the tall man said. "I am he," her father answered, emerging from the back. "What's your business?" "We are looking for a man," the sharper one said, gaze already roaming over shelves, doors, corners. "Lord Everett Hale, injured, fugitive from the law, a duel at Hartley. You must have heard." Mary did not let her hands clench. "We have heard," Mr. Field said evenly. "We have treated no lords here." The tall man stepped forward. "I am Mr. Talbot, steward to the Marquess of Alderwick. This is Mr. Briggs, officer of the law. My master is most distressed by his son's disappearance. If Lord Everett has come here, we intend him no harm. He must answer to the law, but we are as concerned for his safety as anyone." Mary nearly scoffed aloud at that, but managed to stop herself. Briggs's gaze settled on her. "Miss Field," she said, meeting his eyes. Mary Field. "You ride out with medicines," he said. "You would have seen travellers on the road. Have you seen any gentleman, injured or otherwise, who might fit Lord Everett's description?" Her pulse thudded in her ears. She took a breath. "I have seen no man I knew to be Lord Everett Hale," she said, choosing each word with care. "I have seen merchants, a peddler, boys from the farms. No wounded nobleman." It was true. She had not known who Everett was when she found him. Briggs's eyes narrowed. "Are you quite certain, Miss Field? You are pale." "I am pale because I spend my days indoors grinding powders, sir," Mary said, a thread of steel entering her voice. "And because you speak of duels and fugitives in a village shop. We are unaccustomed to such excitements." Mr. Talbot's mouth twitched, as though he heard more than she said. "We do not accuse you," he said. "We merely seek any sign. An apothecary is a likely refuge." "My daughter and I treat anyone who comes to our door," Mr. Field said. "We do not turn away the sick, but no lords have passed here. You may ask at the inn." Briggs glanced at the door to the back, the one leading toward the storeroom. "We will search the premises," he said. "No," Mr. Field replied, moving to stand between them and the door. "You will not. Not without a warrant. This is my livelihood. You will not tramp through my storeroom as though it were a tavern." "You resist the law, sir?" Briggs's voice cooled further. "I insist the law follow its own forms," Mr. Field said. "Bring me a paper properly signed and I will obey. Until then, you may stand at my counter like any other customer." A tense silence followed. At last, Talbot placed a hand on Briggs's arm. "We will not overstep today," he said quietly. "We have other places to search. Mr. Field, Miss Field, if you learn anything, send word to Alderwick or to the magistrate. The Marquess only wants his son safe." Mary doubted that, but she inclined her head. "Of course." Briggs shot her a last sharp look, as though trying to pierce her thoughts, then turned away. The bell jingled as they left, rain-scented air gusted in, and then was gone. Mary's knees nearly gave way. She gripped the edge of the counter until her knuckles whitened. "You lied," her father said quietly. "I did not," she objected, breathless. "I have never met Lord Everett Hale. I only know Everett, a fool who fell into my hedge. Lord Everett is a story other people tell." Mr. Field gave a short, unwilling huff of a laugh. "Word-twisting. You would have made a clever lawyer." "Will they come back?" she whispered. "If they do, it will be with a warrant." He rubbed his forehead. "Mary, we cannot keep him. It is too great a risk." She had known that. She had said as much to Everett herself in her most honest moments, but hearing it aloud made something twist sharply in her chest. "I know," she said. When she told Everett about the visit, his jaw hardened. "They threatened you," he said. "They warned us," Mary replied, "and they are not wrong. Papa could lose everything." Everett looked at his hands for a moment, then back at her. "I cannot stay," he said. "You have done more than enough. I have dragged danger into your home. I will not drag ruin after it." "Where will you go?" she asked. "North. My mother had a widowed cousin in Yorkshire, Mrs. Branson. My father cannot endure her, which is why I trust her implicitly. She has money, connections, and no patience for bullies. If anyone can help me negotiate my way through this mess, it is she." Mary tried to imagine him riding away, pale and stiff, pursued by both constables and gossip. Her throat tightened. "You are not strong enough to travel," she said. "I will be, in a day or two," he said. "Do not try to keep me. You should be eager to see the back of me, Miss Field." She opened her mouth to say, "I am," and found the words refused to come. "I am eager to see you safe," she said instead, "and to see my father's shop unvisited by men like Mr. Briggs, but—" "But?" he prompted gently. "But that does not mean I wish you gone," she finished in a rush. Silence fell. His eyes searched her face. "Mary," he said quietly, "may I be plain?" "You have been nothing but," she said, though her pulse skittered. "Go on." "In the span of a few weeks," he said, "you have entirely unsettled me. I have met many women, some prettier, some richer, some more ornamented, but none who picked up a bleeding stranger with so little fuss. None who spoke to me as you do. None who saw me as something other than a nuisance, a flirt, or a means to an end." She felt heat rise under her skin. "You exaggerate." "I do not," he said softly. "You have been more of a friend to me than anyone has dared to be in years, and now I must leave you." "You must," she agreed, barely audible. He took a breath. "If I were wise, I would simply go. I would spare you this conversation, but I am not wise, as we have established, so I will say this once, and then I will not trouble you again." Her heart thudded. "I am," he said, voice low, "in danger of falling very seriously in love with you." The room seemed to tilt. Mary gripped the edge of the chair. "You should not say that," she whispered. "I am an apothecary's daughter. You are the son of a marquess. Even disinherited, you are still you. I cannot follow you into your world. You cannot live content in mine. It is impossible." "I know," Everett said simply. "I know all that. I cannot offer marriage, not honestly, not while my father holds my future like a leash. Even if I could, your father would be right to doubt me. I can offer nothing but the truth and the promise that I will not forget you." She swallowed hard. "Then keep your feelings to yourself," she managed. "Let them fade. Let this be a brief, strange chapter, then go back and make of your life what you can." His expression twisted, but he nodded once. "As you command, Miss Field." She should have left it there, sensible, tidy, survivable. Instead, when he rose carefully from the cot that final morning before dawn, coat over his arm, pain shadowing his eyes, she found herself crossing the room in 2 strides and thrusting a small bundle at him. "Food, medicine, a map," she said, "and instructions for changing the bandage. If you tear those stitches, I shall be very cross." He smiled unsteadily. "I would hate to vex you." They stood far too close. The room felt full of all the things she would not say. "Goodbye, Mary," he said quietly. "Goodbye, Everett," she answered. He hesitated, then spoke with sudden urgency. If, by some miracle, I come out of this with a life that is actually mine, if I am ever free to choose anything for myself, I will come back. I will not expect anything from you, but I will come. Do not make promises to ease my mind, she whispered. You will have enough to contend with. It is not for your mind, he said softly. It is for mine. He lifted his hand, paused. May I? She knew what he meant. Her heart had already answered before her head caught up. Yes, she breathed. His hand came up to cup her cheek. His lips met hers in a kiss that was gentle and unbearably sad. The first shock of contact gave way to a warmth that spread through her like a draught. She clutched at his coat front, unable not to. He tasted faintly of willow bark and something uniquely his. When he drew back, she had to bite the inside of her cheek to keep from asking him to stay. Live, she said hoarsely. Do that, at least. I will try, he said. It appears I have more reason than before. Then he was gone. Through the back door, across the wet garden, out the broken gap in the hedge. The gate clicked quietly behind him. Mary stood a long while, listening to a silence that felt entirely different now that he had passed through it. Then she wiped her eyes on her sleeve, straightened her shoulders, and went to open the shop. Patience would come, life would go on. It was what it did. Chapter 4. The Return to Fernley. Spring turned the hedgerows green again. Lambs appeared on the far hills. Mrs. Pritchard safely delivered a sturdy son. Mrs. Darby did not, in fact, die, though she declared she was very near it twice a week. Mary served them all. News of the wider world drifted into the Apothecary in fragments. The duel at Hartley faded from the vicar's wife's sermons, replaced by other moral outrages. Once Mr. Talbot passed through the village on some estate business. He did not come to the shop, and Mary did not seek him out. She told herself this was sensible. Months later, 6 perhaps, though Mary had stopped counting precisely because that way lay foolishness, Mr. Field unfolded a newspaper at breakfast and began to read, lips moving as he traced the lines. Well, he said eventually. That is one of your more worrying words, Mary said, measuring out coffee. What is it now? A new tax? A war? The Marquis of Alderwick is dead, Mr. Field said. Fever. Mary froze, then forced her hand to keep moving. Oh. His heir is not our Lord Everett, her father continued. The title passes to a younger son, James. It appears the Marquis altered his will some months ago in a fit of temper. The younger son, and a certain Lady Caroline Kellingwood, are to be very grand indeed. The elder, there is talk of a modest settlement, disinheritance, dramatic scenes. Mary found the coffee pot suddenly very heavy. So, Lord Everett is cast off. So it seems. Her father shot her a quick sideways look. You have been wondering about him. I have been wondering whether the constables would come back and shut our shop, Mary said. It was not entirely false. No sign of that, Mr. Field said. They have other quarry now, I suppose. She did not know what she felt at the news of the Marquis's death. Pity for a man she had never met was thin. Pity for Everett was rather less so. Poor Lady Caroline, she said quietly. She is getting the title she wanted, but not the man she expected. She will survive, Mr. Field said dryly. People with that much money usually do. After that, Mary told herself, more firmly than ever, that Everett belonged to another world. Whatever he made of his altered circumstances, it was no concern of hers. Life, consequently, found it amusing to prove her wrong. The bell over the shop door rang on a mild morning several weeks later. Mary, reaching for a jar of peppermint, called, I will be with you in a moment. Take your time, a familiar voice replied. The peppermint jar nearly slipped from her fingers. She turned. Everett Hale stood just inside the door, a little thinner, a little browner, but very distinctly alive. He had no title wrapped about him now, no steward at his elbow, no air of idleness. His coat was clean but not showy. His boots were dusty from the lane. His eyes, however, were exactly as she remembered. "Good morning, Miss Field," he said softly. For a moment she could not speak. Her heart surged between joy, shock, and a very real impulse to scold him for appearing without warning. "You said you might come back," she managed at last. "I did," he said. "I discovered I cannot bear to be a man who breaks his promises to you." Her father came out from the back at that moment, wiping his hands. "Who is— Oh, you again." Everett turned to him, bowing slightly. "Mr. Field, I hope you are well. You look it." "We are alive and solvent," Mr. Field said. "So I suppose we are. What mischief have you brought with you this time?" "Less than before," Everett said. "My father is dead. The title and most of the estate belong to my brother now. I am nobody of consequence. It is remarkably freeing." "And Lady Caroline?" Mary asked before she could stop herself. "Engaged to my brother, and very pleased about it," Everett said. "They suit each other better than she and I ever would have. They have my blessing and my relief." "What are you, then?" Mr. Field asked bluntly. "A modest landowner," Everett replied. "A cousin died and left me a small estate some miles from here. Nothing grand but comfortable, enough to live quietly if I am sensible." Mary listened, heart thumping. A small estate near Fernley. No title, no marquess hovering like a spectre over every decision. "And why?" Mr. Field said. "Have you come to tell us this?" Everett looked at Mary. "Because your daughter saved my life," he said simply. "Because I left owing you both a debt. And because, when I asked myself what to do with the rest of my life, every path I imagined that did not include Fernley, and this shop felt wrong." Mary's fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. Mr. Field studied him, eyes narrowed. "Do you mean to say," he asked, "what I think you mean to say?" "I do," Everett said, "but I would prefer to say it to your daughter first, with your permission." Mr. Field exhaled. "I am too old to enjoy long speeches. Go on then, say your piece. But if it is foolish, I reserve the right to throw you out." Everett's lips twitched. Entirely fair. He turned fully to Mary. "Miss Field." "Mary," he said, and there was a very endearing hint of nervousness in his voice. "When I left here I was a mess, bleeding, hunted, uncertain of anything but the fact that my life did not feel entirely my own. You had, in the space of a few weeks, altered that. You made me want to be someone I could respect." "You did that," she protested, "by your own choices." "Only because you showed me that such choices existed," he said. "In Yorkshire, I thought. I planned. I waited. My father died. Everything shifted. For the first time, no one had power to order me to marry or stand in a field with a blade. I thought of all the things I might do. Every plan that did not include you felt thin." She swallowed. "You are used to getting what you want." "Not in this," he said. "In this, I am entirely at your mercy." He stepped closer, careful, as though approaching a skittish patient. "I cannot offer you a title," he said quietly, "nor a great fortune. Only a modest estate near here, an honest effort to be a better man, and a heart that belongs, very inconveniently and very entirely, to you. If you would rather I walk away, I will. But if there is any chance at all that you could imagine a life with me, I would be the most fortunate of men." Silence hummed. Mary thought of Fernley, the herb garden, the shelves, the familiar faces. She thought of a small estate where patients might still come to her, where she might keep working with tinctures and teas, where she might share both work and rest with someone who did not tell her to be less than she was. "You would not ask me to give up the shop?" she asked. "No," he said. "I spoke with your father. He says he will need an assistant soon regardless. We might take a house near Fernley for a time, help him train someone. There is an old apothecary in the village by the estate who is considering retirement. You could take over his practice if you wished. We would find a way that is not all sacrifice on your part and ease on mine." Her eyes stung. "You have thought about this?" "Over and over," he said. "Usually at night, when sensible men are sleeping. If you say no, I will find some other life, but it will not fit as well." Mr. Field cleared his throat. "I told him," he said to Mary, "that if my daughter is fool enough to fancy you, I won't stand in the way, provided you do not stop her scolding Mrs. Darby." Everett blinked. "That was not quite how you put it, sir." "It is how I put it now," Mr. Field said. "Well, Mary, you have ground herbs for me for more than 10 years. I suppose you may grind them for someone else as well, if you like." Mary laughed, a tremor in it. She looked at Everett. He looked back, open and unguarded in a way she had never seen in any gentleman. "I will not become some useless ornament," she said. "I will go mad if you expect me to sit by a fire and do nothing." "I would not dare," he said. "I have seen your temper when people waste your time." "And if you annoy me," she went on, "I will tell you so." "Good," he said, smiling now. "I will need it." "And if you relapse into foolishness," she added, "I shall dose you as harshly as necessary." "I expected nothing less," he replied. She drew a breath. "Then yes," she said, "if you truly mean it, Everett Hale, I will marry you." The release of tension in his shoulders was almost comical. He stepped forward as though he could not quite believe she would not disappear if he moved too fast. "May I?" he began. "Twice in one lifetime?" she said softly. "Yes." He kissed her, there in the storeroom that had seen his pain and her tears. This time the kiss was not shaded with goodbye. It tasted of something beginning, of herbs and hope, and a future neither of them would have chosen alone, but which fit them both unexpectedly well. When they drew apart, Mr. Field sniffed loudly from the doorway. "If you are quite done, there is a queue forming, and Mrs. Darby will have my head if she waits." Mary laughed, the sound light and astonished. "Yes, Papa," she said. "We are done. For now." They married in the village church a few months later, under a sky the colour of clean linen. The congregation was not grand, but full of familiar faces. Mrs. Darby wept. The vicar's wife looked as though she had opinions, but chose, for once, to hold her tongue. Everett's younger brother sent a polite note and a modest gift. Lady Caroline sent nothing, which Mary considered perfectly acceptable. Afterward, as they walked out into the sunlight and the village children pelted them with petals, Everett bent his head. "You saved my life in a rainstorm," he murmured against her ear. "Now I intend to spend the rest of it trying to deserve that." "You are improved," Mary said, "but do not imagine you are cured. Patients always relapse." He laughed, joy bright in his eyes. "Fortunately, I have married an apothecary." "Indeed you have," she said, taking his arm, "and I shall keep a close eye on your dosage." Together they stepped down from the church porch into their shared future, one that might never make the society papers, but which would contain herbs and laughter and work and kisses in storerooms. For Mary Field, once merely the apothecary's daughter, it was quite enough. And for Everett Hale, once a rake in exile, it was finally, blessedly, a life that felt like his own. The end. If you've enjoyed this story of love, redemption, and quiet courage, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell, so you'll be the first to hear our next Regency romance on the Regency Gazette channel. Thank you for listening.